You've been told that discipline is the key to success. Wake up early. Do the hard things. Stick to the rules. But here's the problem. This mindset is making you weak, predictable, and easy to control. A man who lives by discipline alone is not strong. He is simply contained. He is like a wild horse that has trained itself to walk in circles, proud of its submission, mistaking control for strength. Discipline, as the world praises it, is an elaborate system of self-imprisonment. It is sold as virtue but functions as a cage. Society rewards those who obey, not because it admires their restraint, but because it can predict their every move. And what is predictable can be manipulated. What is rigid can be broken. The man who wakes at the same hour, follows the same habits, speaks the same truths, and moves with the same steps. This man is easy to understand and therefore easy to use. His life becomes a set of instructions. Anyone who holds the manual holds him. There is no need to defeat such a man in battle. You merely wait for him to act as he always does, and you prepare the trap accordingly. The disciplined man becomes a slave to routine, while thinking he has achieved freedom. Worse still, he parades this slavery as a badge of honor. He thinks his orderliness is nobility. He believes that control of one's urges is the highest form of achievement. But this belief blinds him to the higher reality, that life is not structured, that power is not linear, and that the most dangerous men in history were not the most disciplined, but the most strategically chaotic. These men acted outside of expectation, wielding unpredictability like a sword. They did not live to maintain a schedule. They lived to win. Consider the soldier who follows every order without question. He is the embodiment of discipline. He sharpens his weapon, he studies his drills, he stands when told to stand, and sleeps when told to sleep. Now compare him to the general who defies the king's command when it no longer serves the war. The general sees the battlefield as fluid. He rewrites the rules when necessary, bends loyalty when useful, and deceives with precision. He may appear disciplined in form, but inside, he is a storm, and it is he who wins the war, not the obedient soldier who dies in the mud. Discipline makes a man focused, yes, but focus alone is not power. A man can stare straight ahead and walk right into an ambush. Focus without awareness, control without cunning. These are the traits of the useful, not the powerful. The disciplined man becomes an instrument, not an architect. He executes plans, he does not write them. And the one who writes the plans, who sets the game, who controls the board, that is the man who shapes history. In the court, the most dangerous individual is not the one who is loud, nor the one who is silent. It is the one whose actions cannot be forecasted. The king fears the advisor who breaks patterns. The merchant fears the competitor who shifts strategy without notice. The woman fears the lover who withdraws affection unexpectedly. Power lies in being unreadable. But the disciplined man, by his very essence, makes himself a map that everyone around him can read and exploit. They will say discipline makes a man respected. But understand what that respect means. It is the same kind of admiration one holds for a well-trained guard dog, useful, dependable, but never equal. The disciplined man is admired from below, not feared from above. He garners praise but not dominance. And in the hierarchy of power, praise is consolation, not conquest. Look also at how discipline serves others more than it serves the man himself. A disciplined worker makes the employer rich. A disciplined citizen makes the ruler secure. A disciplined follower makes the leader untouchable. His discipline does not liberate him. It strengthens the chains that others placed upon him long ago. And the irony is that he tightens those chains himself every morning with pride. He becomes the warden of his own prison, calling it achievement. Now consider the alternative, not chaos for its own sake, strategic unpredictability. The man who can play discipline when it suits him, who can show control to earn trust, discarded in moments that demand dominance. This is the man who ascends. He does not become a slave to his discipline. He uses it as a weapon, a disguise. He wears discipline like a mask, not a crown. And because of this, he cannot be rid. He cannot be predicted, and thus he cannot be controlled. Virtue, as preached by the masses, is not a path to freedom. It is a leash, delicately fastened around the neck of the man who believes himself to be righteous. Society sells virtue as the highest good, placing banners of morality above every institution and whispering to the ambitious that to be good is to be great. But this is a lie wrapped in gold. The more a man clings to the illusion of virtue, the more powerless he becomes, for he is no longer acting in accordance with what works. He is acting to appear good in the eyes of others. The world does not reward the good. It rewards the useful, the necessary, the powerful. And yet, countless men waste their lives chasing an illusion that by being disciplined, obedient, and morally upright, they will secure favor and safety. This is not strategy. This is submission dressed in ceremonial robes. The so-called virtuous man is placed on a pedestal not to be honored, but to be watched, expected, and ultimately controlled. He becomes a symbol, a prop, something to point to when others need to prove that obedience leads to reward. But it is never he who shapes the rules. He follows them to the grave. In courts, temples, and councils, the illusion of virtue is used to domesticate the strong. Young men are taught to seek approval rather than power. They are taught to follow rules that do not serve them. They are told that humility is superior to pride, that patience is nobler than action, that service is better than ambition. But all of these are tools to make the dangerous man tame. A man who questions, who doubts, who dares to act outside the lines. This man is unpredictable and thus feared. So they teach him to worship discipline and virtue, and in doing so, they eliminate his threat. The virtuous man becomes dependent on recognition. He must be seen doing good, or else he feels unseen. He is terrified of judgment, and so he avoids cunning. He is obsessed with appearing correct, and so he avoids risk. He binds himself in 1,000 invisible ways, afraid to take the steps that would free him, because freedom might look selfish, might appear disloyal, might not be right. This fear is not natural. It is manufactured. It is installed in him by those who benefit from his restraint. A man who lives to be seen as good can be easily manipulated. Tell him that silence is noble, and he will bite his tongue while being betrayed. Tell him that loyalty is sacred, and he will serve masters who weaken him. Tell him that to fight is sinful, and he will let others win. The illusion of virtue becomes his compass, but that compass points away from victory. It guides him in circles, while others take what he is too moral to claim. What is worse, he judges others who break free from this illusion. He scorns the man who chooses deception over duty, who lies to gain position, who acts ruthlessly when needed. To the virtuous man, this behavior is distasteful, but deep down it terrifies him because it exposes the fragility of his own worldview. He sees someone moving without restraint, and it reminds him that his chains are self-imposed. So rather than learn, he condemns. He calls the cunning man corrupt, evil, immoral. But it is he who remains stuck, powerless beneath the illusion of goodness. Men are often praised for being trustworthy, loyal, and consistent. But understand what this truly means. These are traits that benefit those in power, not those who hold none. The loyal man serves a master. The trustworthy man is expected to never betray. The consistent man never surprises. These men are safe, and safety is another word for predictability. Predictability is not a compliment. It is a vulnerability. In truth, virtue must be wielded like a weapon, not worn like a chain. Appear virtuous when it benefits you. Speak of honor when it gains trust. Show loyalty until it secures your position, but to believe in the illusion itself, to genuinely think that playing by the rules of virtue will make you sovereign, is to live as a pawn. The most powerful individuals in history knew how to wear masks of discipline and goodness, while hiding behind them ruthless ambition, cold strategy, and unshakable will. The illusion of virtue was their tool, not their god. And so, the man who truly seeks to rise must tear down the false altar of virtue. He must realize that it was never about being good. It was about appearing good long enough to gain advantage. Once that advantage is secured, the performance ends. Because those who spend their lives performing for others, who demand to be seen as virtuous at all times, never rise. They are loved, they are praised, but they are never feared. And a man who is not feared will never be free. In a world that rewards survival over ceremony, those who cling to rigid discipline are the first to be broken. The disciplined man walks in straight lines, repeats behaviors, follows a plan with religious devotion. But life is not a straight line. Power is not acquired by repetition. It is seized by those who can shift, bend, and reinvent themselves in the face of chaos. Adaptability, ruthless, unapologetic, and strategic, is the true currency of power. The man who can change his nature without hesitation is the one who cannot be defeated. Rigid discipline teaches a man to act even when the situation demands silence. It forces him to stay the course, even when the battlefield changes beneath his feet. This kind of man is easy to admire and easy to bury. He becomes dependable, yes, but also inflexible. His rules once useful become shackles. His habits once empowering become weaknesses. When war, betrayal, or opportunity comes, the disciplined man is too committed to his routine to respond with force or cunning. He dies with honor, but dies all the same. Contrast him with the man who understands movement. The man who trains not to be obedient, but to be alert. Who sharpens his mind, not just his routine. This man can appear disciplined when it suits him. He knows how to earn trust, how to simulate virtue, how to create the illusion of structure. But beneath that image is something far more dangerous: fluid strategy. This man doesn't ask what is right. He asks what is effective. He doesn't ask what he should do. He asks what must be done to win. It is important to understand that adaptability is not chaos. It is not mindless change. It is calculated transformation. It is the ability to discard old methods without hesitation, to lie when truth is expected, to feign weakness when strength is premature. The adaptable man becomes unreadable. His enemies cannot trap him because they do not know which version of him they will face. To the loyal, he is loyal. To the ruthless, he is ruthless. He reflects his environment like a mirror, but always in control of the reflection. In politics, in war, in seduction, in power, those who survive are not those who follow the same pattern every day. They are the ones who study the game and shift roles as needed. A general who fights every battle the same way loses. A ruler who speaks the same truth to every audience is despised. A man who treats every woman the same way is forgotten. Adaptability means knowing how to present yourself in ways that disarm, provoke, seduce, depending entirely on the objective. Discipline demands consistency. Adaptability demands awareness. The truly powerful do not advertise their adaptability. They appear stable, loyal, and restrained. But only because that appearance is useful. Underneath that calm exterior is a strategist who does not hesitate to betray, retreat, or dominate when the moment demands it. He sees opportunity not through moral lenses, but through eyes trained to detect weakness. He adjusts his tempo to the beat of power, not the rhythm of routine. That is why he cannot be outmaneuvered, because he is not bound to any single method. There is a certain kind of man who believes that being consistent makes him trustworthy. He prides himself on his ability to do the same thing every day, to live by a code, to never change. But this pride is the pride of a beast in a cage who has learned to enjoy captivity. He does not grow. He does not evolve. He remains the same while the world moves forward. His discipline becomes his death sentence, and his consistency makes him irrelevant. In the world of predators, there are no rules, only timing. The adaptable man does not ask for permission. He does not wait for confirmation. He calculates the shift in wind, the crack in the armor, the silence in the room. And he strikes when others are still reciting their code of honor. His actions appear spontaneous, but they are born from a higher form of discipline, one that does not worship routine, but results. He has trained himself not to be disciplined, but to be decisive. Even in the art of deception, the adaptable man excels. Where the disciplined man hesitates, fearing the loss of moral standing or internal balance, the adaptable man embraces the lie if the truth is a trap. He knows that every audience requires a different version of the truth. He speaks not to be honest, but to be effective. This ability to change tone, shape, and message without losing focus is not weakness. It is the apex of control. It is the sign of one who does not bend to pressure, uses it to reshape himself into whatever form is most dangerous. There is no honor in being the same man in every situation. That is not strength. That is laziness disguised as principle. True strength is becoming whatever the moment demands, without guilt, without hesitation, and without apology. The world does not belong to those who follow one path. It belongs to those who can walk 10, burn them all, and build new ones when needed. The man who believes discipline is the highest form of strength has misunderstood the nature of power. Discipline is a tool, but it is not the throne. It is the servant of self-mastery, not its king. While discipline teaches repetition and control, self-mastery teaches precision, timing, and ruthless intention. The disciplined man is often admired for his consistency, his habits, his ability to delay gratification. But admiration is not influence. It is not control. It is not domination. The man who truly understands power does not aim to be consistent. He aims to be effective. He does not care for applause. He cares for outcome. Discipline alone can make a man useful, even productive. But that is not the same as making him powerful. The disciplined man wakes at the same hour, eats the same food, trains at the same time, follows the same path. His life is a loop, and while this may give him structure, it often removes something far more important: strategic freedom. He becomes so married to his routine that he loses sight of when to break it. Discipline becomes his compass, even when the terrain demands a new direction, and so, the man who was once in control becomes controlled by his own habits, his own standards, his own rules. Self-mastery, on the other hand, is not about rules. It is about understanding. It is about knowing your mind, your weaknesses, your instincts, and bending them to your will. It is about knowing when to obey your urges and when to silence them, when to act and when to wait, when to show rage and when to mask it with a smile. The man who has mastered himself does not need to wake at 5 a.m. to prove his strength. He can sleep until noon and still conquer the day, because when he wakes, he knows exactly what must be done, and he does it without hesitation, without complaint, and without being told. There is no virtue in suffering through routine for the sake of discipline. That is not strength. It is addiction to structure. It is the illusion of progress. A man who repeats the same actions without question is not disciplined. He is programmed. Self-mastery demands something higher: choice, the ability to break routine when it no longer serves, the ability to walk away from an old identity and forge a new one when the time calls for it, the ability to destroy one's own comforts in the pursuit of greater power. This is not taught in books. It is not measured in morning routines. It is only learned in the fire of self-awareness and ruthless introspection. The man who has mastered himself is dangerous, not because he is always calm or always consistent, but because he is always aware. He knows his weaknesses intimately. He does not deny them. He studies them. He does not run from his dark impulses. He harnesses them. He knows how to turn anger into momentum, how to turn lust into leverage, how to turn fear into preparation. His emotions are not his enemy. They are his army. This level of control cannot be achieved by discipline alone. It comes only through brutal honesty with oneself and the refusal to be ruled by one's own habits. The disciplined man is often praised as noble, stoic, and virtuous. But this image is crafted for others, not for himself. He lives under the gaze of society, bound by what others expect of him. He fears deviation because it threatens his identity. The man of self-mastery, however, is not concerned with identity. He is concerned with result. He can be one thing today, another tomorrow, and something else entirely the next. He is not lost. He is adaptable. He does not anchor his power in rituals but in clarity. He acts not to be seen, but to succeed. Even the concept of control differs between these two types of men. The disciplined man seeks to control his behavior through force. The self-mastered man seeks to understand his behavior through insight. One relies on repetition, the other on transformation. One follows a blueprint, the other draws the map. And in this difference lies the gap between those who follow and those who lead, between those who serve systems and those who build them, between those who obey discipline and those who own themselves. Self-mastery is the art of owning your instincts without denying them. It is the rare ability to be both beast and king, to act with primal force and calculated calm in the same breath. The man who masters himself does not need validation. He does not need to prove that he is in control. His results prove it for him. He does not cling to discipline as a religion. He uses it as a weapon when needed and discards it when it becomes a burden. He does not bow to his own rules. He writes them in pencil, ready to erase and rewrite as the game evolves. Most men chase discipline because it is visible. It is tangible. It is easy to measure. But the man who chases mastery chases something silent, internal, and far more potent. He is not a slave to consistency. He is the architect of every moment, and whether he chooses to move or remain still, whether he speaks or stays silent, whether he dominates through strength or disappears into shadow, every choice he makes is deliberate, every word intentional, Every step calculated for impa. You were told that discipline is the highest virtue, that through routines, restraint, and consistency, you would find strength, success, and respect. What you were never told is that this form of discipline, the one celebrated by the masses, is a design meant to control you, not elevate you. It turns lions into livestock, rebels into robots, and powerful minds into servants of structure. The world does not reward those who follow every rule. It rewards those who understand when to break them. It praises discipline only because disciplined men are predictable, manageable, and safe. But history, power, and legacy are never written by the predictable. They are carved by those who adapt, who act beyond expectation, who use discipline as a mask, not as a chain. The man who rises is not the one who blindly obeys routines, who wears virtue on his sleeve, or who stays rigid in the face of changing tides. The man who rises is the one who controls himself, who understands that discipline is only a tool, not a truth. He can appear noble, but act ruthless. He can blend in, then strike without warning. He is not shackled by principle, but guided by outcome. To rule your world, you must master yourself, not your habits. You must know when to hold back and when to strike, when to appear disciplined and when to unleash chaos. Because in the end, it is not discipline that makes you powerful. It is your ability to choose, freely, strategically, and without apology, who you become in every moment. Power belongs to those who are not ruled by their discipline, but who rule through it.